Coming to you from deep within the heart of Texas in our secret underground bunkers, it's the New Republic Radio Show. Welcome to the February 11th, 2013 New Republic Show. I'm your host, Keith Clark. I hope you guys have been having a great weekend. We have a great show for you today. A lot of good topics. Some of what we're going to be talking about: support growing for the former LA officer accused of the killing spree. Iranians chanting death to America. We've got more news about China eclipses U.S. as the biggest trading nation. Bunch of other topics going on. Pelosi Federal Government doesn't have a spending problem. We're going to talk about her comments there. Some other gun violence news, or as far as the liberal media pushing gun violence. And a question: why is Richard Dawkins so butthurt about God? Yeah, we've got those stories and many more. So sit back and enjoy the ride. Get ready for some information you've never heard and will not hear in the mainstream media. Well, we'll go ahead and start with this first story, talking about support growing for former LA officer accused of the killing spree. Well, now, many of you have heard about the story with the former cop who's already killed 3 out in California, and he's basically out on the run right now. They're basically throwing everything in the kitchen sink at this guy. Drones, there's chases, you name it. They're trying to do it to get this guy. And one of the chilling things is the fact that there are actually people out there on Dorner's side. This is the guy who did the killing, and they're basically holding him up as a hero, kind of an anti-hero. But this just to me highlights just the sheer stupidity of what's going on with our society these days, where everything is up. What's up is actually down. What's down is up. What's good is bad. Bad is good. Seriously, there are people who think that this is a good thing, that this former cop is going out and killing former co-workers, and then there's just the fact that here you've got all these celebrities and even the higher up police officers and stuff. These are all the people that are saying that nobody needs guns. We need to take all the guns away. But yet they are the ones that have bodyguards and extra protection. And, right now there's a lot of folks out in California that honestly, that's probably in the back of their mind. They're a little bit worried that, maybe this guy might not be after him, but what if they get caught in the crossfire of something that's going down? So I just think it's just a part of the entire hypocrisy of our society, of the liberal media, especially like California and LA, that whole area. Those people, for the most part, are very, very liberal. And it's just interesting to see how it's all coming, how it's basically all unfolding in front of us. The fact that there's anybody, and this is a large group, this is a lot of people that are kind of rooting for him, and I don't get that. I just don't understand. No matter what kind of wrongs and stuff like that you've had done to you, that there's just no reason why you need to go on a killing spree, period. So how anybody in any society can sit there and think that that's a good thing, I don't know. It really saddens me. Moving on to some more just ridiculousness. In the Middle East, Iranians are on Revelation Day chant "Death to America." Marchers also chanted "Death to Israel" and "Death to America" as they headed for the square, some waving posters of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, where President Mohammed Ahmadinejad was expected to make an address. Now, I've told you people so many times about the simple fact that Iran is a threat. Seriously, people, why is our president, our administration, why is our government so at ease with Iran? Seriously? They've threatened so much on Israel and other countries there. I mean, all of this goes together. Iran, Egypt, we're sending tons of, well, not tons, but quite a few fighter jets over there. Why? I mean, these people do not care about us. I think it's going to be a very short time before you see Egypt and Iran merging as strong confidants and strong partners in the Middle East there. And we're just going to be left out in the cold. As some of you saw that I posted, Iran has its own new jet fighter. And amazingly, if some of you look at it, it looks awfully like the F-22 and some of its variants. So, yeah, that's just... that's a little bit interesting, especially with all the shady stuff that's been going on where one of our drones magically landed in Iran for no reason, just landed in Iran. Yeah. And no, Mr. Obama, nobody in the administration, nobody raised an eyebrow. That's completely okay. Not a big deal. Iran having drone technology, no biggie, no biggie, no biggie at all. So I can see them saying, you know what? Iran stole some of our stealth technology. No big deal. No big deal at all. I don't know. It's just complete lunacy. I mean, all this stuff is just snowballing. It's all snowballing into a great big pile of crap. And unfortunately, sometime in the future, we're just going to have to take a great big bite, because there's just going to be no way around it. I mean, we're not going to be able to ignore it, because unfortunately, it's going to be so bad, it's going to come looking for us. China eclipses U.S. as biggest trading nation measured in goods. Now, I know that this probably doesn't surprise any of you, but, how much do you hear about it on the news, really? And how much do they talk about why this is important or not important on the news? I mean, the simple fact that China is now the biggest nation when it comes to trading goods with anybody, any nation, the output, the input. Basically, we're number 2 now, and we are steadily becoming number 2. Our credit rating downgraded not once, but twice. Now we're number 2 as far as trading. Eventually, we're basically just being pushed out the back door. And the reason why this is important, because we have the ability to be number 1. We are only at number 2. We only have a bad credit rating because of our leaders, this administration, and the decisions that we've made over the past 5 years. All of this has come to fruition in the past 5 years. Sure, some of the stuff was because of Bush, but we're talking about a very small percentage of this stuff. And yeah, this has all been a long time coming, but we've had a long time to fix it, and we've never thought about fixing it because nobody wants to wake up and understand that you can't go and shop and buy everything at freaking Walmart, because all they're going to do is take every dollar you spend and they're going to send it where? They're going to send it back to China. Not only the fact that they're sending it to China, but they're selling you garbage at the same price, or maybe, you saved $5, you saved $2, you saved $1 over buying it at Target or some other place or a local, oh my gosh, a mom and pop shop, that would just be such a terrible thing for you to go and spend a little money there. Where would that money go? Well, that money would go not only into an American's pocket and not only back into America, or at least other countries other than China, but my gosh, it would go into the community's pocket. Now, we can't have that, because that would, it would take you an extra 30 minutes for you to go to another store instead of Walmart, or to 3 or 4 other stores instead of Walmart. You can't be bothered to do that for your own nation's good. And you know what? That's just freaking sad. That's very sad. And I'm sorry if this hits some of you kind of below the belt, but it's the truth. There's a reason why I don't shop at Walmart. Yes, have I bought something over the past 5 or 6 years? Yes, I have, but in an emergency. But the thing is I purposely go and shop at other places other than Walmart or other than stores that I know will immediately trade the dollars that I give them and purchase cheap garbage goods from China. That's all of our fault. It's called the Walmart mentality, that cheap is better and that ease is better. And we all wonder why we're out of work. Well, we're out of work because we have nothing but Walmarts in every town. You know, if all of a sudden, and I'm not saying that this is what needs to happen, but if all of a sudden Walmart were outlawed tomorrow, you know what would happen? Oh my gosh, there would be tons of new stores would open up. And guess what? Each of those stores would need a manager. And you know what? A Walmart only needs one manager. Well, they need two managers, like a night shift and a day shift. But anyway, they only need two managers. Well, now all of a sudden, you know, you've got people that make $30,000 to $60,000 instead of two people out of the entire Walmart, out of all the people that they pay. You've got all these businesses that they all have to pay some woman or some man $30,000 to $60,000 a year to manage their store. So now all of a sudden you have upward mobility. Oh man, that would just be such a horrible thing. I mean, who wants upward mobility? Everybody wants to be able to work at Walmart for freaking minimum wage all their entire life. You know? No, I mean, why can't most of you people see? I know some of you people see it. I do. I know that and I realize it. But unfortunately, it's not the majority. And, you know, we need to educate everybody in our family, all of our friends. We need to educate these people and make them understand that when you go to places like Walmart, when you go to these big box stores, all you are doing is you are crippling and you are hurting your community. And what is this show all about? It's about supporting your community. It's about supporting your country. But you start at your community and it works outwards. It's like a reverse trickle down economy. But it all the good deeds, they start in your community and they work their way out. But that's the way we've got to look at this, folks. And I know I've gotten off on a rant here. But anyway, if you've got any ideas or thoughts on that, give me a call, 979-31-TALK-6, 979-31-TALK-6. State lacks doctors to meet demand of national health care law. Wow. Yes, out in California, they are working on proposals that would allow physician assistants to treat more patients and nurse practitioners to set up independent practices. Pharmacists and optometrists could act as primary care providers, diagnosing and managing some chronic illnesses such as diabetes and blood pressure. Where is my country going? I mean, we're going to allow nurses to manage chronic illnesses? I mean, anything seriously? An optometrist is going to check me out and tell me what's wrong with me? Come on, people. Why did anybody ever think Obamacare was going to work? I mean, how stupid do you have to be that you didn't see this coming? And I know so many of you did, but it's obvious that nobody in California saw this one coming. Because if they had, they would have thrown up a flag. They would have said something. They would have tried to fight it. No, most of those people out there were fighting for it. But again, elections have consequences. So, you know what? When your poor grandmother or mother or dad or whoever dies because they were misdiagnosed by an optometrist, you can only blame yourself. You can only blame yourself. Because this is the kind of problem that we're going to have nationwide. Maybe not at the outset, but the simple fact that there's so many doctors who already at the outset have said, look, we're not going to be a part of this. We're going to go either to another country or we're not going to be doctors anymore. So right away, in the next 5 years, you're going to have a problem because all the states are going to be having problems with doctors. Then you're going to have another problem in 8 to 10 years because, look, there's a lot of students that are starting their college careers out and they're sitting there thinking, I want to be a doctor, but now they're sitting on the fence. And in 8 to 10 years, we're going to see that come to fruition, and we're going to see the fact that not many of them are choosing to be. So, yeah, it's going to come down to the fact that pharmacists, optometrists, nurses, nurse practitioners, whatever, those people, it's going to be set on their shoulders to basically do all the the heavy lifting that doctors normally would do, and I mean that not literally, figuratively, but they're going to have to make all these decisions, and unfortunately, they don't have the background, they don't have the years in practicing medicine to diagnose these type of things. It's just we're headed for a huge train wreck, people. A huge train wreck. And I hope all your liberal friends, I hope they're happy, because they have taken the world's most advanced medical industry, and basically now we're going to have nurses as primary care providers, pharmacists, optometrists. Okay, I got to get on another subject. This is just too much. Many of you heard me last show talking about the big debate between Archbishop Rowan Williams and Richard Dawkins about, does religion, organized religion, have a place in the 21st century? In that, I just brought up some points there that I thought were pertinent and interesting. Going over that, I also had some other thoughts that I kind of wanted to do it then, but so now I'm basically doing it now because, after listening, I've listened to Richard Dawkins many times. He's all over YouTube because all of the militant atheist warriors, they love, they basically rule YouTube. So, you're always going to see these kind of things. But it's just interesting when you have a real debate background, or at least understanding and a good grasp of it, and you see people like Richard Dawkins trying to get out here and make arguments. It is amazing how many holes their ideas, their thought process, and their arguments have. And this was another thing that I wanted to bring up. And my question is as simply as, why is Richard Dawkins so butthurt about God? If you watch the debate there, and you can see it now on YouTube, the University of Cambridge has put it back up. They've allowed some of the videos to get back up there, so you can rewatch it now. It's over an hour long, so I know a lot of you don't really want to watch all that. There's if you skip forward a little bit before the middle is Richard Dawkins' part. And right after that, it gets pretty interesting because there's some good rebuttals of that. Right around hour 5, there's a very good rebuttal by a physicist there, and that was kind of the subject of last week's story on this. But I asked this question because in this, if you happen to watch it, Richard Dawkins is basically talking about what type of God he would want, what type of God he's willing to believe in. And I just find this so amazing because he rails against God so hard, but his perfect God, he comes out and paints this. He's like, hey, my God would be, he would be a God who was a master physicist, a master mathematician. He came out, designed the world, put all the rules and laws down, tweaked it all out, set it down and let it run and walked away from it, and he doesn't give a crap about what happens. He doesn't care who you sleep with or what you do with your life. He doesn't want you to worship him. He doesn't want any of this stuff. He is just all about the details. Well, the funny part too, I think another interesting aspect to Richard Dawkins' personality is the simple fact that he never alludes to the fact that this is not a new idea. In fact, there is a theory called the watchmaker, and it's a theory about God. And there was a lot of people, especially back in the 1800s, that really believed in this is who God was. And what their idea is that God was like a watchmaker. He designed and built the watch. He wound it up. He looked, checked it. Okay, it's working perfectly. He sets it on the desk. He walks away from it. But what's amusing is, while Mr. Dawkins is talking about his perfect God, he never references he makes no reference to the watchmaker. He, in fact, puts out his entire idea of the perfect God as his idea, and that he came up with this. And look at how intelligent, look at how awesome I am that I have this original idea of the way of a fair and perfect God. This is what Richard Dawkins so says. This is what he so saith. It's just amusing that he either is so arrogant that he thinks he's so much smarter than everybody that nobody knows about the watchmaker, or I am really, because of the way that he talked about it, I really kind of think that he just doesn't know that much about philosophy, which, hey, you know what? That's not necessarily a bad thing, because he is a biologist. So I'm not saying that he's, a horrible person for not knowing about theology, but that's a pretty basic, theological idea. So, for him to not know about it, I'm really intrigued at that thought, because that doesn't make any sense. What makes more sense is just the fact that, honestly, Richard Dawkins is a fraud, and he likes to make things look bigger and more complicated than they have to be. And of course, he always wants to be at the center of attention. He wants you to buy his books. He wants to be in debates. He wants to get paid to, come to Cambridge University and be in a debate or make a speech or whatever. These are the type of things that Richard Dawkins is about. But me being the person that I am, I love to lift up the veil and show the world what's behind the puppet. What kind of small, unintelligent, unthoughtful, single-minded person is behind the veil. Another thing in his whole argument, basically against God, was the fact that he says that there can be no God because his argument is that, what does everybody always say? They say, man, look at the world, look at the trees, look at the rolling hills, look at the clouds in the sky, look at the, the bunny rabbit hopping by. You can't see the design in that. That was obviously designed to be that way. There has to be a creator. Look at the eyes in your head. Those two eyeballs, those are obvious designs, and those designs have to have a creator, a designer. Well, he says, yes, that's what you people say. But what you don't understand is, in order for there to be a creator, or in order for there to be a designer, there has to be a designer of the designer. So, as many of you know who listen to the show regularly, he basically sets up a straw man argument. And what this straw man argument is that when you look at the wonderful creation of eyeballs, and you say, well, that's obviously a designed system that somebody thought out and designed and said, look, this is going to be in animals, and basically he's saying that, okay, you say that, but that can't be, because that basically means that, well, you know what, you can say that there was a God, but then there was somebody who created God and gave him that knowledge of how to design the eye. So he basically just keeps going back and forth to, well, who created the creator? Well, okay, that's nice, but who created that creator? Okay, well, that's nice, but who created that creator? He basically not only is it a straw man argument because he basically tears that down and then goes, well, see, because I can tear this fake argument down, that means that there is no God. There was no creator, there was no designer, because I can tear this straw man argument down. Not only is it a straw man argument, but because it's a looping fallacy, it's a looping thought process, it's also a red herring, because you have to go chasing after it. It's the creator of the creator of the creator of the creator, on and on and on, forever, basically. That is kind of his idea, because I don't know what it is. And I don't think he doesn't know this, because there's no way he couldn't understand the idea of the fact that God was never created, God never ends. So there's no way that he's never heard of that. There is no possible way he has never heard of that, because that is such a basic tenet in philosophy, especially when we're talking about the God of Israel. When we're talking about that God, everybody knows that there was never thought that there was a beginning and there will never be an end. There's no way he could not think that. So it's got to be the simple fact that he refuses to acknowledge that. So he wants to try to basically play games with you and say, well, I can prove that there's no God because there has to be a creator of the creator. And I can just keep doing that, and I can go back, just like he did in that argument with Ben Stein, when when Ben Stein courted him and said, "Hey, look, when this primordial goo was on the earth originally, it was the building blocks, but where did those building blocks come from? And he had to ultimately say, well, they came from somewhere that wasn't Earth." So aliens did it? Yeah, aliens did it. Well, then who created the aliens? Yeah, I don't know who created the aliens. Basically he just keeps going in this looping. It's just a never-ending story. But that's the thing that drives me nuts about Richard Dawkins. He jumps on any type of theist because we come up with, at times, we come up with the thought that, what, God did it. I don't know how God did it, but he did do it. That doesn't mean that we stop and say, well, maybe God did it, but I don't want to know how. We never say we don't want to know how. We always push forward science, push forward physics, push forward all the different types of sciences, and to understand how God created things and how he did those things. Does Richard Dawkins not understand that a theologist created the theory of the Big Bang? Does he not get that? I mean, he went off for like 5 minutes and started talking about how, Christians, yeah, I guess he was specifically talking about Christians, but he was saying that Christians always go off and just say, well, God did it. God did it. God did it. I don't want to know. I'm not intellectually curious, which no Christian has ever done that. Maybe we have some not bright Christians, just like everybody has not bright people. But the thing is, some of them are just like, that's just too big a thing. I don't want to think about it. It hurts my head. Okay, I get that. But you know what? There's a large, and most Christians, a large portion of this population that are like, yes, you know what? God did it. I don't know how he did it yet. We will figure it out. But that's the thing is, just as we do at some point use God as a placeholder, we do that. But we only do it to a point. But he's sitting here and doing the same thing. He uses the creator of the creator over and over as a placeholder. That's what he always does. I can't explain it, but it's the creator of the creator. It's the designer of the designer. That's basically what Richard Dawkins always goes to. But the funny part is, he always has to down on theologists and basically say, well, you guys can't do that. And you guys, that's intellectually dishonest for you to do that. Not intellectually dishonest for me to do that. And the funny part is I've never seen a theologist do that to him. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I've never seen a theologist say it. All I've ever seen a theologist say to him is, look, can you just admit that you don't know? I mean, that's fine. That's fine that you don't have an answer. But anyway, just going back over all this, it's just the simple fact that Richard Dawkins wants to come up with all these ideas and make you think that, he thought them up, just like the watchmaker theory. And then he wants to sit out here and he wants to basically give you straw man arguments all day long about why God doesn't exist and how God couldn't possibly exist. And it's nothing but strong man arguments. And that's the reason why I want to teach you guys more and more about debate, because the more and more that you understand, fallacious arguments, these straw man argument, red herring, those type of fallacies, these logical fallacies, the more that you know about them, the more that you can watch something like this and just be like, whoa, if I would have watched that 5 years ago, I would have said, man, this guy's a freaking genius. But dude, now that I've got a little bit of knowledge, I'm not the smartest man or I'm not the smartest woman around, but dang, wow, I realize now how little this person actually knows. But yeah, I just had to go off of it. I know it's kind of, some of your eyes are glazing over. That's cool. I'll get it. I'm going to move on. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on. Pelosi, federal government doesn't have a spending problem. Quote, it is almost a false argument to say that we have a spending problem. Really? Really, Pelosi? Really? We don't have a spending problem. No, not at all. You know what? You idiotic freaking libs, the longer that you put people like Pelosi in power, the more that we're just going to be broke and stuck like a joke, because we're not going to have jobs, we're not going to have money, we're not going to have anything, because when people can't take it, stand up, take responsibility for what our government is doing, until we have politicians that can do that. And don't get me wrong, I know there's some Republicans like that too. I'm not a big Republican supporter either. But the simple fact is that, we've got a problem with Republicans being illogical with our money and spending too much. But we have an epidemic with Democrats. All right. So here's the thing, is that if at least we had a nation full of Republicans, we could maybe slow the bleeding down just enough to get some real conservatives in there to run against those Republicans and actually stop the bleeding. Because I tell you what, our country is hemorrhaging money. We had to shut the post office down because we're losing $16 billion a year. Excuse me, shut it down for Saturdays, because it's losing $16 billion. And you know what? While that's not a super needed service, people do need packages, and people do need a few, they need to send some bills here and some payments there and, things like that. It's not like, it's not like the railroad system, up north, where they're just basically dumping tons of money into it, because it's not that much needed. It's not that needed. It's basically hemorrhaging money all day long. But the simple fact is, we have all these people that are in charge of these programs, or they start these programs up and they never look after them again a day after it's done. So we're basically hemorrhaging money in every type of program we have. And to say that, that we don't have a spending problem, that is asinine. Seriously, you need to have your head checked if you don't think that the government has a spending problem. I don't know. 97931-TALK-6. Give me a holler. Give me a text. Send me a message. Leave me a message. Let me know what you think. Moving on to the liberal nonsense section. I was going through some of the liberal blogs and stuff today. I happened to come across on Alan Combs' website. What is it? Liberal Lynn? Yeah. And he has an entire section devoted to Today in Gun Violence. And when you click on that, it's basically each day, it's all these different stories about some kind of gun violence. But that's the problem, is the left is getting hysterical now with the anti-gun everything. And I'm just amazed, because what is a big problem in America today? Is it gun violence? Well, that's not necessarily a good thing that we have going on right now. But you know what real problems are? We have a jobless problem. And how come I don't see articles on liberal websites about today in job loss? How come I don't see articles about today in mental problems? Because so many of these people that are causing gun violence do have mental issues. Also, we have the simple fact that there's more serial killers that are killing people. They're killing more people each year, almost 3 times as many people each year as killing sprees are killing people. So why don't we have a today in serial killers? That's the problem is, and you know what? Even the right is sometimes bad about this. But as a country, we're never going to make it when we're focused on stupid little things like this. That's our thing. Well, liberals, yes, I know gun violence is your thing. But you know what? You need to focus on real issues. And why don't you just be honest and talk about, we have a president who's not focused on jobs. We have a president who's not focused on our economy. We have a president who's not focused on rights for Americans. He's allowing people to be killed by drones. Why don't you have an article about that? No, you don't. Why? That doesn't fit your narrative. Okay. Well, I get that. But you know what? You're pretty worthless and you're a moron. Because if you're going to run an entire website, an entire radio show on nothing but I want to get rid of guns, seriously, just stop breathing. You're going to do everybody a freaking favor. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We have to educate these people. We have to. It's called cognitive dissonance. And that's the reason why they get mad at you when you give them the truth. But always understand, if they get mad at you, you caused a reaction. You caused something to change in them. Because the very moment they got upset, it was simply because reality did not match their preconceived notions. You slapped them in the face with facts, and they momentarily woke up, and they said, wait a minute. My worldview, my way of looking at things has been countered by these facts. There's multiple ways that people deal with that, but there's 3 basic ways. You either get upset and you say, shut up, I don't want to hear this, I'm going to walk away. Or you keep arguing. Or at some point, there is a day that actually happens. And it's when the facts become stronger than your preconceived notions. And you look at it, as you and I have done many times, and we say, wow, I never looked at it that way. I didn't realize that. And you make changes. You make changes to your worldview. You make changes to the facts that everybody carries around in their heads. And that's the problem. That's the reason why so many people say things like, well, you can't change some people's minds. And that's true. But there's a very simple reason why. And it's called cognitive dissonance. You need to look it up. You need to learn it. Because the more that you learn it, you will understand that even if you don't bring somebody around to your point of view, at least if you upset them, you've made some kind of difference. That's the reason why we're having such a hard time in America right now, is because politics are considered a taboo. We're not to talk about them at the dinner table. We're not to talk about them at work. We're not to talk about them at the barbershop. We're not to talk about them out in public. As they say, in polite society. But we've got to stop doing that. We've got to stop doing that, and we've got to make people understand you can't live in your fake world all of your life. At some point, you're going to have to wake up to the facts. And if it hurts, if it makes you mad, you can add this as a tagline to any debate that you get into. If it makes you mad, then you probably want to look a little deeper into it, because for some reason you're upset. And if you were 100% okay with your belief and the way that you look at things, you wouldn't be upset, because you would feel 100%, you would feel like you can defend your idea no matter what. That kind of person, if they don't get upset and they don't react to it and they're still happy and they're willing to talk about it, you know what? That person at least has facts and figures and arguments as to why they feel a certain way. If the person gets upset, all that means is that they don't have any way to argue it. They're confronted by the fact that you're showing them facts that they can't refute. So again, just remember that if you make somebody upset or you supposedly hurt their feelings, you actually helped that person. You never hurt them. So yeah, just something to think about. Cognitive dissonance. Look it up, read about it, understand it, because it is our key. It is our key to taking this country back, to reconstructing this new republic. So I'm going to leave you with that. As always, do your part. Do a good deed today. Share a smile, a laugh. Help someone out. If you help your community, you will inevitably be helping yourself. Just remember that. I'm your host, Keith Clark, and I'm out.